Hello and guten Tag, mein Freunde! I'm Peter and here I'm telling you stories about the most interesting European cars of the 80s and 90s. Today we are talking about a car that had many names and brought Audi to the top league of luxurious executive cars, Audi 100. But before we start, thank you very much for watching and commenting on my videos and for subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate your trust. And if you are not subscribed yet, please subscribe to stay tuned and not miss new videos. I really need your support to make this channel more visible on YouTube. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the car. The first Audi 100 was made in 1968, and the last car with this name was produced in 1994. But Audi continued manufacturing basically the same car until 1997 under the new name Audi A6. And if we are taking into account the A6 and A8 lines, which are direct successors of Audi 100, we can say that the cars of this line are still in production, already the 8th generation now. And speaking of the names, Audi 100 was called so because the most powerful engine of the sedan body of the first generation of this car had 100 horsepower. Over time, Audi 100 received a top version Audi 200. In the 80s, Audi 100 was sold in the United States as Audi 5000. In 1988, Audi built a V8 car on the same platform under the name Audi V8. In 1991, the performance version of Audi 100 was named Audi S4. And in the middle of the 90s, the model line of Audi 100 was split into two new lines, Audi A6, which was the direct successor, and more luxurious Audi A8, which was the further development of Audi V8 model. Both new lines also received the performance versions, S6 and S8 accordingly. By the way, I already have a video about Audi S8 on this channel, check it out by the link in the description to this video. Audi 100 had 4 generations under this name. The first was produced from 1968 to 1976. The second generation, C2, was made from 1976 to 1982. The third, C3, from 1982 to 1991 in Germany, and from 1988 to 2005 in China as Hongqi Mingxi. I apologize for my pronunciation. And the fourth generation, C4, was produced from 1990 to 1994. And as I said, the same car, after a small restyling and renaming, was manufactured as Audi A6 until 1997 in Germany and until 2003 in China. On this channel we speak about cars of the 80s and 90s, so I'm going to talk more about the C3 and C4. But we have to take a look on the first two generations as well to understand where it all came from. In 1965, Volkswagen bought the Auto Union group of companies from Mercedes Benz. This purchase included the brands DKW, Horch, Wanderer and Audi. The main idea of Volkswagen was to use the Auto Union plant in Ingolstadt to increase the production of Volkswagen Beetle, which was extremely popular at that time. The sales of DKW F102 with an outdated two-stroke engine were not impressive at the time. An updated model DKW Audi F103 with a 4-stroke Mercedes-Benz M118 engine sold better, but Volkswagen still didn't see any reason to keep the design and engineering team in Ingolstadt anymore. There is a highly probable legend that Heinrich Nordhoff, the CEO of Volkswagen at that time and actually a legendary person, directly prohibited to develop any new cars in Ingolstadt. But the technical director of Auto Union Ludwig Krauss didn't believe in the long future of an outdated Beetle. Together with his team, he secretly continued development of a new car, which later became Audi 100. Nordhoff learned about the project only when the car was ready for production. He was really impressed, gave the project a green light, and kept the engineering team in Ingolstadt. We can say that Audi 100 probably saved the Audi team and the Audi brand from extinction. And Ludwig Krauss worked in Volkswagen for many years. And actually his developments later saved Volkswagen from potential bankruptcy when the demand for air-cooled engines dropped in the 70s and Volkswagen borrowed technologies of Audi for Volkswagen Golf and Volkswagen Passat. Initially 100,000 of Audi 100 were planned, but the car had great sales and the total number of produced cars was over 800,000. The first generation of Audi 100 was available as 4-door and 2-door sedans and a 2-door coupe. Several inline 4-cylinder engines were available, all derived from the same M118 engine of Mercedes-Benz and Audi F103. The engines could be coupled with a 4-speed manual transmission or a 3-speed automatic Volkswagen gearbox. The second generation of Audi 100 was launched in 1976 and was a completely independent development without the Mercedes Benz ancestry. This car was produced in the quantity of almost 1 million. A two-door sedan was still available in addition to the most popular four-door sedan body. The two-door coupe body was dropped, but a new four-door hatchback was launched in 1977 under the name Audi 100 Avant. From the technical point of view, the most interesting novelty of this generation is a completely new inline 5-cylinder engine that appeared at the beginning of 1977. It was the first gasoline 5-cylinder engine in the world. Before this, only Mercedes-Benz used 5-cylinder diesel engines in their prototypes. Audi told in the commercial that this engine combined the power of 6 cylinders with the economy of 4 cylinders, and this was true. At first, this engine was available only for top trim levels with fuel injection, but later carbureted versions were also introduced. In 1979, the top performance version of the Audi 100 was introduced at the Frankfurt Motor Show as Audi 200. This version had the same 5-cylinder 2.1-liter engine but with turbocharger, giving it 178 horsepower. Meanwhile, we made it to the 80s, and in 1982 the third generation of Audi 100 C3 was presented. It had a lot of innovations and was a truly remarkable car not only for Audi, but for the whole automotive industry of the 80s. 3 design proposals were considered for development of this car. The first one by Giorgetto Giugiaro, the second one by British car designer Martin Smith, and the third one proposed by the internal design team of Audi, led by Hartmut Varkus. Eventually, the design of Hartmut Varkus was approved for production. The technical development of the car was led by Ferdinand Piech, a manager of technological engineering department of Audi and the grandson of Ferdinand Porsche. He was the leading developer of the said 5-cylinder engine, by the way. The two-door sedans were discontinued in this generation, and the 5-door Avant version became a wagon instead of a hatchback. The new Audi 100 had an aerodynamic styling with a drag coefficient of 0.30, and it was the world record at that time. This reduced the fuel consumption, which was very important after the oil crisis of the 70s. Also, in combination with the light weight of the car and the front-wheel drive arrangement, this made the car very interesting to drive even with mid-range engines. And speaking of the engines, the C3 generation had a number of options, 29 to be precise. All of them had inline 5 cylinders, except for the 2 smallest 4-cylinder 1.8-liter ones. I'm not going to list all of those engines here. Let's just say that the weakest one, a 1.8-liter 4-cylinder engine, had 75 horsepower, and the most powerful one, a 2.2-liter with a turbocharger, produced 220 horsepower with a top speed of 224 km per hour or 139 miles per hour, and 0 to 60 miles per hour under 7 seconds. That was very good for the 80s. The weakest engines were carbureted, and others had mechanical fuel injection or a turbocharger. The range of engines included also 5 diesel engines. One of them, 2.5-liter engine with 120 horsepower, was turbocharged. This was the first model to wear the TDI label. From the start, Audis of this generation had either a 4-speed manual or 3-speed automatic transmission, but later 5-speed manual and 4-speed automatic transmissions appeared. The car was very well protected from rust. Starting from September of 1985, Audi 100 was fully made of zinc galvanized steel, and even before that many structural parts were galvanized. This was very important for Northern Europe, and the car had a great appreciation there. And the overall quality of the car was very good. Even now, 40 years later, many of survived cars have a very decent condition of plastic and wooden parts as well as the seats. The resource of the engines was phenomenal. You can find many cars with 300,000 miles and more still on the road. The C3 also was a very safe car by contemporary standards. It included a very interesting safety system, Procon 10. At the moment of the front impact, when the engine moved back absorbing some of the impact force, it simultaneously pulled special cables, which in their turn pulled the steering column, removing it from the driver, and tightened the seat belts. In addition to that, the car had an innovative approach to the zones of control deformation, ABS, and the driver's airbag starting from 1988. In November of 1984, the most signature feature of Audi 100 was introduced, an all-wheel drive system Quattro, derived from rally racing cars of Audi. The elegance of the system was in its simplicity, reliability and effectiveness. The all-wheel drive system of Mercedes Benz 124 4MATIC appeared only 2 years later, was very complicated and didn't help in many cases. The 5 Series of BMW got the all-wheel drive only in 1990. And the Quattro system was very simple, with just one center differential torsion. It allowed splitting the torque between the axles in 50-50 ratio the most of time, but it can transfer up to 80% of the torque to one of the axles when needed. On top of that, this system was very reliable due to its simplicity. Many Audi owners and enthusiasts believe that torsion differentials are virtually immortal. In 1995, an Audi 100 Quattro commercial was filmed at Pitcavuori Sky Jump in Kaipola, Finland. A red Audi 100 climbed up the ski jump almost to the top. None of the competitors could do the same. This legendary scene was repeated later by Audi in 2005 and 2019 for the new A6 and e-tron accordingly. This generation allowed Audi to stake out a claim for a place at the table of Germany luxury executive cars occupied by only Mercedes Benz and BMW before. There still was some controversy about Audi in Europe at the time, and it wasn't perceived as a true competitor to Mercedes and BMW by many before the 90s. But the sales were really good, and over 1 million cars of this generation were produced. Audi 100 was maybe not as fast as BMW, but it was more spacious, had very comfortable seats, both front and rear, and was rather well equipped, even in the mid-range trim levels. Electric windows, climate control, electronic cruise control, etc. Maybe it was not as luxurious as Mercedes-Benz, but Audi in many situations was more fun to drive, especially we speak about the Quattro in winter. So the C3 found its place somewhere between BMW and Mercedes-Benz. And it was the first Audi that was very successfully sold in the United States. Here it had the name Audi 5000 to highlight the advantages of the 5-cylinder engine. A fast, spacious and economical mid-sized car was very well accepted on the market, and about 120,000 Audi 5000 C3s were sold by 1986. But in November of 1986, CBS TV news program 60 Minutes accused Audi in sudden unintended acceleration causing accident and even deaths. The claim was that Audi 5000 could suddenly accelerate without driver's actions, and even the brakes couldn't stop it. This accusation ruined the reputation of Audi 5000, and its sales almost stopped. Audi had to rename 5000 back to 100 and 200 to remove the negative image. Those claims are now considered faked almost by everyone. Nobody ever could recreate that sudden acceleration, despite many dozens of experiments conducted by Audi, car journalists, and car enthusiasts. The only recreation of the event was shown in the same program 60 Minutes, and later was confirmed as purposely staged. On the opposite, it was proved that brakes could stop the car even with the gas pedal fully pressed. Probably the accidents were just the cases of mistaken use of the gas pedal instead of the brakes. And probably a large part of the accidents didn't happen at all. It was just an exaggeration inflated by the media. Well, we have all seen how it happens from time to time, especially considering that such accidents were not reported in any other country of the world. I don't want to accuse anyone, but it seems that the tragic fail of Audi 5000 was very favorable to the three major American car manufacturers, who began to lose the market share due to rapidly increasing sales of Audi. Be whatever it may, but the third generation of Audi proved to be very reliable and safe over the years. But the technical progress never stops, and in late 1990 the next generation of Audi 100, C4, was launched. There was also a very interesting sibling of the C3 platform, Audi V8, produced from 1988 to 1993. But that car deserves a separate story, and I will tell you about it someday in the future. The body of the Audi 100 C4 was new, but the changes between the C4 and the C3 generations were not so much visible as for C3 and C2. The exterior lines of the car became more roundish and curvy according to the car design trends of the 90s. The choice of body options stayed the same, more popular 4-door sedan and a 5-door wagon Avant. From the technical point of view, it was more evolution than revolution. The main novelty was a new V6 2.8-liter engine with 174 horsepower and a 90-degree angle between the cylinders. Later, another V6 engine joined the range, this time with 60-degree angle and 150 horsepower. Inline 4-cylinder and 5-cylinder engines were still available, as well as diesel engines, with or without a turbocharger. The whole range of engines included 12 options from 82 to 280 horsepower. In 1991, Audi introduced the S4 version of Audi 100, a performance car with a turbocharged 2.2-liter 5-cylinder engine, producing 230 horsepower, a top speed of 244 km or 152 miles per hour, and 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.8 seconds. The next year, in October of 1992, another version of the S4 appeared, now with a 3.2-liter V8 engine, the same that was used in Audi V8. This engine had 280 horsepower and a decent torque of 400 Nm. The top speed was 249 km per hour or 155 miles per hour, with 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds. The 5-cylinder engine of the S4 was paired with either a 5-speed or 6-speed manual gearbox or with a 4-speed automatic transmission. The V8 engine was available with a 6-speed manual transmission only. The car still was very comfortable and pleasant to drive. The body was fully galvanized. The all-wheel drive Quattro was available as an option with all engines except the weakest ones. The car was very safe with the improved Pro Content system, ABS and airbags, which became standard in 1993. In 1994, Volkswagen Group decided to update and unify the product lines of Audi. So Audi 100 received a facelift and lost its name. Now it was called Audi A6, but it was the same C4 car with just some small updates. This generation was continued until 1997 in Germany, when it was replaced by a new Audi A6 C5. The name Audi 200 was dropped completely. The Audi S4 was renamed to S6 to conform to the new brand guidelines. Audi now used the name S4 for the hot versions of the Audi A4, which previously was called Audi 80. It all was a little complicated, but so it was. The driving experience of Audi 100 in both C3 and C4 generations could be very different depending on what engine and powertrain you had. The car was spacious, comfortable, solid build and pleasant to drive in all trim levels. But with weak carbureted 4-cylinder engines it was really slow and boring. On the opposite side, with the 5 or 6-cylinder engines, especially with Quattro all-wheel drive, Audi 100 was a very fast and enjoyable car. Its lightweight and great aerodynamics created all conditions required for high-performance driving. It maybe couldn't win over BMW on a dry summer road, but on wet or slippery winter surfaces nobody could compete with an Audi in comfortable fast cruising. This car was unique for its time, and it rightfully takes an honorable place both at the table of prestigious German executive cars and in car history. Both C3 and C4 generations were imported to the United States during its production, first as notorious Audi 5000 and then as Audi 100. But American market received a narrow range of engines due to government regulations, and the engines were weaker than in European models. And it is very difficult to find an Audi 5000 in good condition in the US now. Not so many of them survived until this day. But all these cars are older than 25 years now. So if you want to bring some unique turbocharged Audi from Europe, you can legally import it to the United States. And if you do want to do something like that, check out my website by the link in the description below. In Europe, both C3 and C4 generations in good shape cost now from 2,500 to 10,000 euros depending on the mileage and condition. You can even buy one for 5 or 700, but it will have some serious issues. Exceptionally good examples, 200s, S4s, especially turbocharged with low mileage, go from 15 to 25,000 euros. But there is a lot of survived car in Europe, so you have a choice, and it is possible to find a rather good Audi for reasonable money. And they are expected to grow in price over time. Good examples of C1 and C2 generations are significantly more expensive already, so it's maybe actually a good investment. Don't miss your chance! Well, thank you very much for watching. If you ever owned an Audi 100, please tell me about your experience. It's always so great to learn real-life impressions from car owners. I personally used to own Audi 80 many years ago, and it was a really good car, so I think Audi 100 should be even better. And what do you think? Well, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. New interesting stories are coming soon. Danke schön, mein Freunde, and see you next time.